Welcome back, Piggies. We are your co-hosts, Dane and AJ. We are back with another Pigskin Pals podcast. In this episode, we'll be doing another critique corner, this time for our boy, Riley. Don't forget to sack those like and subscribe buttons like they're Jordan Love. But without further ado, let's get stuck right into it.
Boom. All right, we're going over Riley's team. Like AJ said in the intro, the Texas Rattler Snakes. Interesting to name your team after Spencer Rattler, your third-round pick of your team. He's the staple, even though he's got Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. So Rattler's got some names to live up to. But with that starting lineup, he's got Josh Allen, David Montgomery, Ramondre Stevenson, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Luke Musgrave, Khalil Shakir, Tyler Lockett, and Joe Burrow. But, I mean, probably when D-Hop comes back and he's healthy, or maybe Jahan Dotson would be filling in that flex spot over Shakir, potentially. And he's got a couple of other starting players on his bench, too. I'll just go over that with Jonathan Brooks, Blake Corum, Xavier Legette in that starting lineup spot. Yeah. Jermaine Burton, the aforementioned D-Hop, Tyler Boyd, John Dotson, Alec Pierce, Jalen Hyatt, and then Taxi. I wouldn't say anyone notable. Maybe Jared Wiley, actually.
Riley is widely kind of known. He's got an oldies team. A lot of guys who are probably on their last legs, whether that's Kupp, Evans, Tyler Lockett, those type of guys who are, still put up great value, like fantasy points, but they're going to be out the door here in a bit. But he's also known for having two of the best fantasy quarterbacks. They kind of carry his team for the most part if those guys are lacking. So even though, he's playing Khalil Shakir right now in his flex, he's still a scary team to play against because his quarterbacks can put up 60 points in your mouth and keep him in the game. I will say, as we were going through his bench, I actually like a lot of the young guys he's got. His rookie draft this year, I felt like, was pretty good.
Yeah, which ones in particular? Are you talking about running backs or the wide receivers or just all in general?
Kind of in general. I really like the Jermaine Burton pick.
Yeah.
It works with Joe Burrow. Obviously, we don't know what's going on with T. Higgins. Jermaine Burton's basically taken over the Tyler Boyd role, which is always playable. It was never all that good, but it was a playable asset. Tyler Boyd was. And who knows if Higgins goes, Burton could step up. And then Jonathan Brooks and Blake Corum kind of helped with his hole at running back. He didn't really have, and still, I guess, doesn't really have a lot of running back depth. But once Brooks comes back, and if Corum is splitting that backfield or just getting touches, it at least gives someone he can play at running back. I know last year he was just not playing a second running back sometimes because of injuries.
Yeah, this is going to be a difficult just overview and critique corner because I do not envy this position really, where you just have a ton of old players and good players though, but you are just missing at some running back spots that might just hold you out of the championship. Riley has been in the championship or pretty close in the playoffs every year, I believe.
Last year.
So he has the potential to get there. I still think he's got enough in him, and he has 2 first-round picks next year that he could be playing with, and 2 seconds. He's same draft capital as me. I didn't realize that. 2 first, 2 seconds for the next year that he could be using as some ammunition to upgrade or just trade for some players outright.
I mean, I was going to touch on the picks as well, but I was kind of going a different direction. I almost think he's at a spot where he can keep these picks and kind of use them to re-up his status as a contender almost. Because like we said, he's that old guy. He's got the old guys. They're going to be gone soon. You kind of have to start restocking at some point. And with this capital that he's got for next year, I think it's almost time to do that. I'm not saying he has to tank the season. And, let's say he does end up being 8-2 and he's really pushing for that title. Go ahead and, sell some picks if you need to. But I'm not necessarily sure he'll be in that spot. So I think personally, I would probably try and keep as many picks as I can if I'm him.
Well, so I guess with that mindset, are you thinking his star receiving core has a couple more years to give? With Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, and Lockett and D-Hop?
I think Mike Evans and Cooper Kupp can both be wide receiver ones this year still. Top 12 wide receivers. And if that coupled with Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, and if he has one good running back, that's already enough to be a team that is feared, I guess, in air quotes. So I don't necessarily feel the need to get rid of my picks to try and reload, because then I can use my picks to reload with young receivers or young running backs next year instead of using them to, get aging people to try and compete.
Okay. So you're saying maybe just stick with what you got, roll the die that you can make it pretty far again, and then use your draft capital as draft pieces and draft some younger players.
Yeah. And I mean, like, right, if you can give a first for, like, T. Higgins or something like that, you know what I mean? That's different. I'm okay with doing that because T. Higgins is a proven player. He's still pretty young. It's basically like using your pick on a rookie, but, like, a little bit better almost because he can actually play and you know what he can do. So, like, that type of player is fine. I'm just saying don't use these picks on Devontae Adams and people like that.
Oh, yeah. No. I wouldn't
You know what I mean? Those
doing
type of guys.
that at all.
Yeah, I mean, who's someone you're looking at right now where you're like, I'd be willing to get rid of this guy. Maybe I need to trade, upgrade out running back or whatever it was. What's the person you're looking to trade here?
This might be crazy, but Josh Allen?
Whoa.
I would be trading Josh Allen, I think. I've been hearing a lot of comparisons to because he does play a lot like Cam Newton and like Cam Newton's career arc. I think he has maybe 1 or 2 more years until he hit that cliff that Cam Newton hit. I'm not saying I think Allen's way better of a passer than Cam Newton, but you might not be getting those league-winning years out of Josh Allen where he's going to be rushing for 10 touchdowns and putting up 600 yards every season. So I'm thinking maybe you could capitalize on that now, and you still have a stud quarterback that's going to be viable every single week because and every single year because he's a pocket passer, and Burrow's been unfortunately hurt, but he should have like a longer career and more stable, where if you are going to be like rebuilding too, like you could get a haul for Josh Allen. You could probably get like a stud running back, and these are some crazy trades that would go down, and they would be so interesting to see.
Are you joking? Why would I trade Kyler Murray, a first, and Alvin Kamara for Josh Allen? That doesn't make any sense. But you know what? Here.
Could go down. And, dude, he needs that tight end.
I don't know. I think there have to be more than just Josh Allen in this deal because I think Ethan does need a quarterback, but I don't think he would just do Josh Allen for these two. But like something like this,
crazy. That would be such a crazy, perfect trade if that like went through because Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I do Josh Allen and like Jermaine Burton or some bullshit like that, and then you get rid of that other Bengals guy. You get this one and get Mark Andrews, like something like that. Very reasonable. However, issue with this is he doesn't have any other quarterbacks. So he would have Joe Burrow and Spencer Rattler. So he needs to make a deal that gets a quarterback in return. Otherwise, he is a solo dolo quarterback man. So this wouldn't really be a good trade.
So maybe we do not unless, because Ethan has like 3 quarterbacks where he could put in
Bryce Young
or who's his other? I mean, he has.
I'll
take a quick look. I know he has Jaden Daniels. He has Bryce Young.
Dak.
And Dak.
You're not getting Dak.
Dak. And Zach Wilson.
Either way, I get what you're saying, where if you can get a haul back for Josh Allen, do it. I don't know if I necessarily agree, and I also don't know that Riley would make a deal like that, personally.
No, it was just throwing an idea out there, especially
it's not a bad idea.
Maybe even after this year when your receiver's dying and it's not like your draft picks are working out, then I would be looking to capitalize on that.
Yeah. One thing that we kind of have been talking about a little bit, one area we think that Riley could upgrade is tight end.
How would you go about doing that? I think running back too.
Yeah, for sure running back. I think we touched on that a little bit. How would you go about upgrading tight end right now?
I would do, because he has 2 second-round picks, this is what my thought process would be, is I would look at my second-round picks, which one's probably going to be less valuable, or which one could I have a better chance of selling, and then I would just fire sale a bunch of trade, probably like 6 or 8 tight ends that I would want. I would just send out a trade for every single one of them and just see what I can get back. Because like we were talking about in the last episode with Ryan, we were like, yeah, if I could get a second round pick for Evan Ingram, I would do that in a heartbeat. So he just needs an upgrade at tight end, and I think that would be a pretty easy and fast way to do it. I mean, you could do a lot more slower where you just talk to one person at a time and see what they would be offering. But
yeah, I mean,
if you're comfortable with
I don't
any
hate
of them,
yeah, and I was talking about how I was talking about him keeping his picks and all that jazz. But for tight ends, at least, a second gets you, or can get you, a reasonably like young tight end that with reasonable output. So it's not like you're throwing it away and the guy you're going to get is going to be gone. With a second, you can get, Evan Ingram will be gone, or will be playing for a couple years. A Jake Ferguson or a Pat Freiermuth, one of those guys, also will be there for a while, and those are upgrades to Luke Musgrave, I'd say. So I'm okay with trading a second, I think, for guys like that.
I mean, maybe not Pat. I know you're hyping up your guy, but I don't think anyone want to trade a second for him this year.
I think he'll be. I think
he's a good value this year for
Musgrave.
sure.
Certainly, I think a second is perfectly fine price, especially if it's like we talked about, it's going to be a later second probably, right? I think that's perfectly fine value, and I think he'll be a better play than Musgrave. Just a less competition, better player, probably a worse offense, but I don't know.
I'm excited for Spencer Rattler on his team because
yeah, go ahead. I was about to pop off.
I definitely think there's a chance where Carr gets sat again this year, and Rattler's going to have a couple of games to prove himself as that starter, or maybe even next year they just move on from Carr. And because I mean, Saints got to do something because I think they're in a bad place right now, where like they have a good defense, and that's been carrying them for a long time, but they can't get anything put together on offense. I know they're changing their OC this year, so that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But if there's no improvement with a new OC, I think the next move is switching quarterback, and I think it would be fun to see Rattler play. I know he had a ton of hype in college where he was probably supposed to be the number one prospect this year, and some off-the-field stuff, I think, happened. And
no, it was
his attitude during the game. It was
Caleb Williams took a spot.
Well, yeah, that too.
Well, that's what it was. It was basically Rattler got hurt or he wasn't playing that well, and he got benched for Caleb, and Caleb went crazy, and then ever since then his stock has kind of just dropped. Yeah, I mean that's I think the main thing. If you can get an upgrade tight end for a reasonable price, do it. Running back is tough for me. Like I think he should upgrade somewhere, but I also think that Jonathan Brooks and Blake Corum could be very playable people. So you might not need to spend anything quite yet on upgrading that room. I think the only thing I'd say is like the Tyler Lockett's, the DeAndre Hopkins, those type of guys, the middling, not wide receiver one possible, like Evans and Kupp, like those keep Evans and Kupp, but like the Hopkins, Lockett, those guys, if you can get anything for those guys, I'm perfectly willing to ship those guys off.
I would keep them in Riley's position because I don't think you're going to get much. Like,
I mean,
could you get a second for Lockett? I don't think so.
No, probably not.
He's going to be more valuable on your team than, I mean, yeah, depending on injuries, and if someone's desperate for some spot start flex areas, then yeah, it can all be fluid and you can adjust. Yeah. Who is this for?
This is for Tyler Lockett.
Oh.
I was looking to see if you can get like a third plus a playable running back or something like that. But because like I do something like that, third plus like a running back. If the two running backs rookies like don't pan out, that'd be something I'm willing to do. But it doesn't seem like anything in here is showing that. But that's the type of deal that I'd be okay with.
Yeah, I would be willing to do that too in a heartbeat, but I don't think it would happen.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thought. All in all, my thought is kind of stay steady with what he's doing here. Upgrade at tight end if you can. Try not to get rid of those first-round picks for players that could expire soon because basically your entire team is going to expire soon. And this is a flexible team. Play it by ear. If things really start going downhill, you could always fire sale, but I think it's going to be a middle-of-the-pack team that makes the playoffs.
I have that same belief, and yeah, I agree. I think this year, yeah, you kind of commit to that championship. You're not really I mean there's a lot of ways you could go. Yeah, I think the best way and the most average way is going to be not trading any of your draft capital and trying to stay steady and replenishing your youth with your picks and winning now with the vets and studs that you have now and hoping that works out. But you could also trade that capital, get even more firepower and go all in, or you could even trade some of your older guys to championship rosters and get even younger. So you're just going to have to be paying attention to the value of players this year and where you kind of lie in the rankings and where everyone else is kind of hungry for. So lots of moves that Riley could be making this year.
I agree. Yeah, I think this is actually kind of a fun team to be an owner of just because it could go so many different ways. It's not like you're dead set on one road right now. So I think it kind of could be a fun one to play around with. You can kind of go any direction you want. But I think personally, I would try and win, but not at the detriment of my future, if that makes sense. So that's this episode of Critique Corner. We appreciate you all for watching. Riley, I'm ready to see you make some moves, get that stud tight end on your team and make a championship run. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn the noties on. We appreciate you all watching. We'll see you next time.